Restaurant Unstoppable. Inspire, empower, and transform the industry.
We obviously had people that we hoped would invest in our project. And so we wrote down on a dry erase board these names. And the first person we sat down with said that they would give us a little bit of money.
Wow.
And we were like, this is going to be so easy. And so we called the rest of the list that we had, and not one other person said yes.
So what, in your mind, what was the number you thought you needed to be able to open?
$350,000.
How much do you get from the first? Are you willing to talk about that?
We got $50,000.
Okay, so you still had a ways to go.
Yes.
So you got it.
We got the 50, and then we went 0 for the next whatever that was. But what we realized was we were out of names.
Okay.
And so we had to call everyone back and say, okay, we know you're not interested. Give us 6 names, we believe in 6 degrees separation, of people that might be interested to sit down with us. And eventually we built out a database of over 340 something names. And out of that 340, we got more than 7 people.
Wow.
Right. And so it took a year plus to raise the money. And of that ebbs and flows where you went months and months and months and months never thinking you would actually be able to raise the money successfully. We'd had to do weird stuff where, we were 2 23-year-old kids trying to open a restaurant and bar in Nashville, Tennessee that was just different. Some people were really interested in at least learning about it. Some people had zero interest in learning about it. But what we really struggled with was people taking us seriously enough to get to the actual finish line of writing a check. So they would take a meeting. Nashville's a nice city, and it would be like interesting. We'd have great conversation. We'd follow up, and it would be a little bit of radio silence. And so we would send them a gift. We would make guacamole for them, and we'd deliver to their office guacamole and chips, with the thought process that no one's going to get a gift and not at least reply with a thank you. And that was our in. Okay, you got the guac. Awesome. Are you still interested in investing in the bar?
See, like one of the things that's going through my mind is, especially when you're trying to court somebody and develop a relationship with somebody, well, a lot of the time, all it takes is just consistency and familiarity. If you keep on showing up, you're going to become familiar with you. Like over time, if you keep showing up, if you try to stay familiar, like it's eventually opportunities are going to happen. Don't ever stop at the first no is what I'm trying to say. What are your thoughts on that?
100% correct. Yeah. And I also think that the fact we stuck with it for so long allowed people that were on the fence to circle back to us and be like, man, you guys are committed. I believe in you. I don't know if I believe in the bar, but I believe in you.
I'm so happy
you're not going to let us down.
Yeah.
And that was how we closed the deal, right? It was those people that were on the fence that saw us going after it every day. We treated it like a job. We took over the kitchen in this terrible apartment that I had. We bought $20 dry erase boards, the big 4x8 sheets from Home Depot. We drilled them into my wall, and that entire kitchen was full of names, and we would check them off.
What was your major in Miami?
It's so dumb. Entrepreneurship.
Okay, well, I mean,
unhireable.
But at the same time, it taught you a lot about resilience, I'm sure, and just starting, right? And just
it did. It gave me a really great baseline, and I think that I was really lucky on that.
How did that serve you the most? Do you think that background, that influence during this time studying entrepreneurship?
It was really a major of a lot of minors. And so I think that I got exposed to enough of the little details of business that I look back on it and I felt like maybe it was more full, the bucket was fuller than it was. But I at least got exposed to a lot of different things, and that was very helpful. When we finally got to open the bar, what I realized very, very quickly was in no way, shape, or form did I have any idea what I was doing.
Yeah. And you said people, and I love that you say this because I echo it all the time. People don't invest in restaurants. They invest in people. And I was actually going to say that, but you on paper at this time of your life, no offense, I think most people would say not a good investment, right? Because your track record wasn't there. There was no proof of you and what you could do. So the big things that I'm pulling from your story that made people to overcome that, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening to this who want to open a restaurant. They maybe never even worked in a restaurant before, but they still have the dream. You staying familiar is what you did. 6 degrees of separation is what you did. You casted a wider net, right? You went to people who have a reputation and you had them be the common denominator, right? What else did you do?
I think at the end of the day, we were overly transparent and overly honest, right? And I think that people can see that, especially in the restaurant and bar business where people are maybe not accustomed to dealing with that as often, but we were overly transparent. We couldn't hide the fact we were two 23-year-old kids without much experience.
Yeah. Give me an example of the level of transparency and honesty that you led with.
I think that, we got asked a lot of questions that we didn't always know the answer to. And we were honest with that. Like, are you going to be able to sign this lease? We think we'll be able to sign the lease in this location. We truly believe that. We're not going to look you dead in the eyes and say, this lease is signed or we're signing it tomorrow. But if we believe that if we're able to raise this money on this timeline, that this building will still be available for us to lease. And just those little decisions where some people might say, oh yeah, we'll be able to sign the lease. The over explanation of that to make sure people understood that this isn't just some half-baked thing, but this is actually us sitting down and being like, look, we're going to live through the trials and tribulations of this together. We think we can get there. I think all of those little things to fully explain is a great example of where you take the time to make sure people are comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about vulnerability and that as a tool to gain trust. It's like a dog rolling over on his back. You're going to scratch that little sucker. Like you're going to get down there and give him some love to that little guy. And is there something that's like welcoming about vulnerability? Like when you're just exposed, I think it's much easier to gain trust.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, and people can tell, right? I mean, if we went into these rooms and we were two 23-year-old kids that tried to convince people we knew exactly what we were doing in every single question that was, they would know we weren't being truthful, right?
Yeah.
Like there's an element of like, what are we hiding anyway? And it's the way we want to operate.
Yeah.
And so we were just overly vulnerable.
So you went to all these people that said no. You asked them to recommend 6 people each. You end up with something upwards of 72
We had
or something?
340 something names on this list.
342 names. You got 7 total yeses. Is that what it was?
Yeah, like 7 or 8. Yep.
And that's how many yeses you needed to get that 350.
That's right.
So you get the money.